Hey, what's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Welcome back to Podio Commentary, where our motto is movies are love, movies are life. And today we're going to be putting that to the test by talking about the 2003 hip-hop martial arts action. I don't know if I'd say comedy. There's comedy in it, but it's definitely not what you would say a comedy film. We're talking about Cradle to the Grave. So if you guys don't know, right now I'm working my way through the Andrzej Bartkowiak collection of films. And this guy directed 3 movies, his first 3 films with with producer Joel Silver, with whom he met when he was cinematographer on Lethal Weapon 4. And Cradle to the Grave here has a bit more connection to Lethal Weapon 4, not just because Joel Silver produced it, but because Channing Gibson was one of the writers on it, and Channing Gibson also wrote Lethal Weapon 4. So Joel Silver is definitely going back to this well of not only like talent from behind the camera, but talent in front of the camera, because he's got, once again, Jet Li starring in a movie that's all about hip hop, and it's all about, kung fu and martial arts and everything else. And then you've got DMX kind of providing the urban flair, more so than he did in Romeo Must Die, but he proved himself really well with Exit Wounds that came out in 2001. But I do think that had a lot to do with the fact that Steven Seagal was a big draw for that film. This one was, I remember when it came out, we had it at the drive-in, and I remember watching a little bit of it, but never watching the whole thing, because I think what it was is my coworkers were like, it's not as good as Exit Wounds. And we all really loved Exit Wounds. So maybe I just kind of like put it off on the side and just never got around to watching it. Well, now I did. And I have to say, it's fun. It's actually a lot of fun. I mean, is it like as racist as Romeo Must Die? Yeah, a little bit. They really don't like Asian people. Like, they really do not like Asian people. There is so much anti-Asian sentiment in this movie at times that it really makes you go like, why did Jet Li allow himself to star in this movie? You know what I mean? Even with the other one, you're kind of like, okay, I kind of get it with Romeo Must Die, because that's more of a take on, Romeo and Juliet, right? The Montagues and the Capulets, and against, it's the Asians, and it's the black mob, right? So you've got that whole thing going forth there. So I kind of get the animosity. Here is just kind of out and out racism. It really is. Still a fun movie, but the story is bonkers as all hell. And so really what it is it starts off with Anthony Fate, played by DMX, and he is a master thief, okay? Like a master jewel thief. And he and his crew with, Anthony Anderson and Gabrielle Union and some other guy whose name I can't remember right now, end up taking on breaking into this vault and stealing all of these black diamonds, which are not actually diamonds. They're some kind of special, like, benign plutonium that was created by the Taiwanese government, stolen out of Taiwan, smuggled to the United States, where it was then going to be taken by an arms dealer played by Mark Dacascos, whatever his name is. And I gotta say, I just have to point this out off the bat. Like, the villain of this movie has very little personality. No, that's not true. That's not true. He like, for a person who's like an arms dealer, who's like, kind of running everything from behind the scenes, and he's trying to kill everybody that gets in his way. He has like no gravitas. Like, at no point in time do you really kind of suspect that he is going to, he's going to be a threat, which that's actually maybe the point of what he was playing. He's like the pretty boy, and ends up, being the bad guy here. But again, at the same time, it's like, okay, whatever, right? You have your bad guy. He wants the stones. DMX has the stones. They kidnap DMX's daughter. And then here comes Jet Li, who is basically working with the he's like Taiwanese intelligence trying to get back these stones. But here's the thing. This is where it gets interesting, okay? So and if you know anything about geopolitical situations, Taiwan wants its own independence from China. China claims to own Taiwan under the One China policy. We as a society, when it comes to our particular exports over there, we never say that Taiwan is its own individual country. Like, China gets mad if we do. And I'm just wondering if this was one of the things where it's like you have a Taiwanese intelligence agent but they call him he's Chinese, and they make reference to the fact that he's Chinese in the movie. So I don't know if that's something that they had initially said, that he was like Chinese intelligence, but then they changed it to Taiwanese intelligence. I have no freaking idea. It's one of those things where you're like, if you know the geopolitics, it kind of adds this extra layer to the story. Like, why is a Chinese native working for the Taiwanese intelligence agency? You know what I'm saying, right? Gets the noggin a jogging a little bit there for like, what's his backstory? That might actually be something they could do in a sequel. Who knows, right? We go back to that particular well. Sadly, without DMX, because DMX has sadly passed away, which is really unfortunate, because his music is all over this movie, and it's awesome, right? I just want to quickly point out, it opens up with an Eminem track. Like Romeo Must Die opened up with a DMX track. This one opens up with an Eminem track. And it's just like, I forget what the track is, but it's Eminem from like the early 2000s when he was just on fire. You know what I'm saying? So like, this was like just Joel Silver absolutely working with Warner Brothers to like get Warner Music to probably let him use the track. And it just kind of sets the tone for like the opening of the movie. I will admit it's a good opening of the movie, because it shows like DMX and his partner like trying to break in, through the underground to get up to this vault. And then they juxtapose that with Jet Li, and Jet Li is like trying to find the person who orchestrated the deal. And he's like on, up on top of a hotel and starts like jumping floor to floor to floor, like, and it just has this weird kind of like infiltration, but from two different aspects, right? You have your exterior and you have your interior. And they're both pretty compelling, I have to admit. Like, I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, so not to recap all the plot here, but it's just basically like, Mark Dacascos takes DMX's daughter and is like, I have your daughter, give me the stones or she dies. All right. And then like, okay, there's your complication. Right now we're almost in like commando territory. All right. So daughter's kidnapped. Daughter is a pain in the ass for the bad guys, which is great to see. And now DMX has got to team up with Jet Li in order to go and get the stones. One problem, he tried going to Tom Arnold, who is also in Exit Wounds and in this one. And Tom Arnold is Tom Arnold. I love Tom Arnold. I just think he was great. I just like his energy, especially when he's kind of playing these bumbling sidekick characters. Think of his character from like True Lies, but like he left the government and became an arms dealer. It's a little similar to that, okay? A little more shit talky, all right? But I'm not against any of that. I'm not against any of that. I like Tom Arnold. I've always enjoyed Tom Arnold. And anyway, so like, but that guy gets robbed by Chi McBride, who plays this other gangster, and they have to then go try and like negotiate for that. And it gets all crazy. And that's kind of the whole point of the movie, right? Is like your A plot and your B plot are interesting. And unlike Romeo Must Die, and I kind of go back to Romeo Must Die, because Romeo Must Die, in its plot breakdown, you had your two sides, your two stories, your two plot lines, but they didn't really interact and they weren't really dependent on each other. But here you have the A plot and you have the B plot, and they work in congruence to the point where they intersect, and then it leads to the finale, which is by and large what you get in a lot of these paint by number movies. And I'm not criticizing that. We actually like formula. People like to be able to watch a movie and go, oh, that's going to come back later. That's going to be important, because people like to feel smarter than the story that they're watching. And I'm not trying to criticize anyone's intelligence. This movie is not high bar entertainment. This is not something for people who have a Mensa degree, but at the same time, one of Christopher Nolan's favorite movies is fucking MacGruber. Okay, so even people who can make some of the best movies ever made are still fans of like low bar trash. And I'm saying that with love. You have to understand that. I'm not attacking this movie. I actually really enjoyed this. I've been enjoying my time going through Andrzej Bartkowiak's director, his movies. I really have. I hadn't seen Romeo Must Die. I enjoyed it. It's a bit forgettable, but ultimately it's fun. Cradle to the Grave, I had a blast with. Doom, I had fun with, although it could have had more potential. Chung Li, that one was a toughie, I'll admit. That one I have to kind of criticize. This one I find to be a lot of fun. And again, it goes back to the concept of who's overseeing the production. And this is a Joel Silver thing, right? So Joel Silver knows that you got to have action, right? You got to have larger than life characters. You got to have, a bunch of hip hop beats. You got to have sexy ladies. You got to have all these things to kind of make this work. And this movie, Yeah, no, it does it, right? So Gabrielle Union's character is a very interesting character in this particular film. Okay, she plays Daria, who worked for Jump, right? That's the name of the bad guy. Chief McBride, Jump Chambers is his name. She worked for him. And then apparently DMX took her away, right? Now, the idea here is that she was either a stripper or she was a prostitute, not a thief. But with working with DMX, she's a thief, right? So it's kind of like they never really say what it is. They kind of leave a little bit up to the like interpretation. And so at one point she has to go and basically like act as a distraction. So she goes back to the club that Chambers owns and she basically is like, yo, I want to get my job back, right? And so the guy running the show is Michael Jace, who plays Odeon. That's a name a person, a character has in this stuff. Anyway, Odeon, this is the thing with Michael Jace, right? I'm watching this. Michael Jace was on The Shield right around the same time or a little bit after this. And then in 2014, he actually ended up killing his wife and he's now serving 40 years in jail. So like I knew that. So I'm watching this and I'm like, holy shit, what's he doing here? Like, isn't that guy in jail? And I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, no, he is. He's absolutely 100% locked up to like the 50s and shit. So he ain't going anywhere. But it's so weird because he's basically just like, they kind of play up the True Lies dance sequence a little bit, right? Like they've got her going in with him, trying to seduce him. She starts doing this dance. She starts like kind of stripping. It's a striptease, but unlike Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies, you can tell that Gabrielle Union has a bit of a body double. Now, I can't quite tell you what I know. Well, I can tell you what shots. There's like some shots like side boob or under boob, and you can tell at that point that's a body double. But I don't know if like the butt shots are a body double. I'm just putting that one out there. I was using my forensic eye to try to tell. I couldn't, you know what I mean? So whoever was her body double, good for you. You did great. Anyway, enough of me being a pervert. The scene just stuck out to me, because you don't know how far she's going to go. It really does make you think she's going to go like all the way. You know what I mean? Like she's just waiting for the cue to like knock this guy, to get out of there, I guess. But she ends up getting caught by him, and then she knocks out another guy, and then she gets out of there. And so he gets caught by all the security guards, and then they call the cops, which here's the interesting thing. The arresting officer was the same officer from the jail that was more or less like Chambers, like, the liaison, right? Because Chambers runs the jail, and this cop is like, yes, Mr. Chambers, no, Mr. Chambers, that kind of thing. And it's the same cop. So I don't know if that was on purpose or if that was just like an actor. They just needed to grab him. Like, hey, man, like we already got you for the day. Come over and do this stuff at the end of the day. Because what we get after this, and this is where we get into a very interesting, again, the juxtaposition, right, between the two action scenes, like in the beginning. So you've got DMX ends up seeing this like quad, right? This like, motocross guy, right? Whatever dude, has got like a quad, and he runs over and he steals the quad. And then he leads the police on a car chase through Los Angeles while riding a quad. And you're hearing like DMX, X gonna give it to you. And then you're hearing like, then it cuts over to Jet Li and he's in a pit fight or a cage fight with a whole bunch of dudes. And he's kicking everyone's ass. They play like Saliva's Click Click Boom, which is one of my favorite tracks. Yeah, don't sue me. I like butt rock from the early 2000s. All right. I'm only human. Okay. And then it juxtaposes back to that and they cut back to like another rap song. And it just kind of like, it's a whiplash of tonality for not only the action, because he's on like, the motor, he's on the quad, and then you've got the fight scene that's going on, and it's really funny. Like it was just really funny because it's just like, okay, now we're in this is a big fight scene, this is a big scene in the movie, and it just feels completely tonally opposite of itself, but again, you can kind of also tell that they don't care, you know what I mean? Like they just do not care. But in the process of fate getting away, Jet Li and Tom Arnold find the guy who took the stones. Then they discover that the stones were actually back at Chambers Club, but they were inside of the fountain, the little water feature by the hot tub, hidden in there. But by this point in time, Mark Dacascos had already gone and killed Chambers, goes over, gets everything, and that kind of sets up the finale. Right. So, I mean, but the reason why I'm kind of recapping that is more or less to solidify that this is where the screenwriter was like, okay, your A plot, your B plot, they're both working towards the same thing. Complication. Now we're going to make them all kind of meet together even though it's like the bad guy was working independently and got the one up on everybody just because. You know what I mean? So it's like it ultimately got them nowhere, essentially, right? So then you come to find out that all of these stones are synthetic, like diluted plutonium, and they can activate them in a machine that more or less would turn them into like, Hiroshima and Nagasaki times 100. So this is like some real new world order shit. And all of these arms dealers are coming on in and they got to track them down. Now, I will admit, I like the way that they track them down, because Tom Arnold puts a call in to his buddies and he finds out, okay, which airport hangar has like a bunch of flights that are coming on in, right? All of these helicopters are kind of, marked, and they all land in this abandoned airport hangar. And so they go, okay, that's where we're going. So that's where they go. And that's where they set up to fight, and again, you've got like, I completely forgot to mention Kelly Hu is in this, right? So this is coming off of Lady Deathstrike from X-Men 2. So she comes over to this movie and she's fighting, and you've got your three different bosses that are currently being fought by three different characters, right? So you got Jet Li versus Mark Dacascos, because they were friends who knew each other, back in the day. All right. And I think he was an agent as well, but he kind of like, went bad guy. And then you've got Gabrielle Union versus Kelly Hu. And again, it's like Gabrielle Union, we don't know if she can fight. People are assuming Kelly Hu can fight. If you've seen Lady Deathstrike in X2, right? All that stuff. And then they've got the other dude, the more menacing guy, who's trying to go after the girl who's getting away, the 9-year-old or 8-year-old daughter getting away. And then DMX fights that guy. And then you've got these three individual scenes that are going on. And of course, our heroes all emerge victoriously. But what I enjoy about the last one with Jet Li and Mark Dacascos is getting away in a helicopter. And here comes Anthony Anderson, who I have a lot to say about him here in a second. But Anthony Anderson and Tom Arnold in a fucking tank. And but the thing is, they telegraphed this at the beginning of the movie. When we first meet Tom Arnold, he's got a tank. I'm like, okay, you got a tank. It's going to show up at the end of the movie, right? So somehow they took this tank through the streets of LA over to this airport hangar. And it has live ammunition, and no one said a word. Now, if you know anything about Southern California, a couple years prior to that, in San Diego, a guy had stolen like a tank from the military base and was driving it up the freeway. It's a whole situation. You can look it up online. So I was kind of laughing about that. I was just wondering if that was inspired by this particular thing because of how wild that scene in San Diego was. And that happened before I moved there, but I'm pretty sure the screenwriters lived in LA and they're like, what can we, what kind of craziness can we add to this? But anyway, they fire off the missile or the tank shell, and it hits the helicopter, and then it lands and it crashes, and it creates this circle of fire from the discarded gasoline. Right. So here comes Jet Li. He comes on in, they get into a fight. He kicks his butt and he grabs like the radioactive piece of the little broken, black diamond thing and shoves it into Cascos' throat, and then like just breaks his windpipe and snaps it off in his throat. And then he more or less like turns into Lopan from the ending of Big Trouble in Little China. Like his eyes glow, his mouth glow, his ears glow, and then he just freaking like irradiates right there. No harm, no foul. No one else got injured, obviously, right? It's a movie, and then like it's just like that's it. That's the end of the movie. And then they're like, what do we do now? And he's like, I think we should go straight. Right? Like, I think we should go straight. And then, that's it. And then the end of the movie has a great end credit sequence with Tom Arnold and Anthony Anderson. And they are just talking so much trash about themselves. Right. And like about other people and about like other things. Like they want to do a movie version of what just happened. So like they're fan casting it as the end credits are rolling. And I do remember that part from watching it at the drive-in, because I was like, I always thought that was really funny. But what got me about that was they even like call out the director. Like, we need to get that Pollock director who did Exit Wounds and Romeo Must Die. We got to get that guy to come back and do this movie. It's like a total like meta little jokes at the end. But Exit Wounds, out of the three films that Andrzej's Bartkowiak did with Joel Silver, that one did gross the most. But I want to quickly touch upon Anthony Anderson for a second here, because he starts off in this movie. He's got a more of a diminished role in this film. Like, he's there throughout a lot of it, but like in Romeo Must Die, he is like a henchman for Delroy Lindo. In Exit Wounds, he's DMX's buddy. In this one, he's DMX's teammate, crewmate, whatever, right? He's still good, Anthony Anderson. But in the beginning of the movie, when they're trying to get access to this vault, Gabrielle Union goes and like hits on the security guard. And then she recognizes that the guy, he ain't biting because he's gay. So then she sends in Anthony Anderson, and there's this whole like at least 3 minutes of just Anthony Anderson, like just overtly flirting with this guy. And it's working. It's really funny, but it's also so stereotypical. You know what I'm saying? It is so stereotypical. And that is a lot of what this movie was. Like, this movie wasn't trying to be anything other than that. You know what I'm saying? And that was the thing, even with Exit, or with Romeo Must Die. And I'm sure when I watch Exit Wounds here tonight, I'm probably going to see the same thing. But that's one of the things that kind of cracks me up about it is that it's very much a byproduct of its time. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And it's like, and to give you an example of the other writer on this one, I forgot to mention this earlier. His name is John O'Brien. He wrote the screenplay for Starsky and Hutch in 2004 and the Dukes of Hazzard in 2005. So, so he's worked with Broken Lizard. He's worked with Todd Phillips. But I don't know why, the only 3 films he has credit for right now are Cradle to the Grave, Starsky and Hutch, and Dukes of Hazzard. So you can look at that for very much the byproduct of the early 2000s, which was still heavily coming off of like the big pushback to PC humor in the early to mid 90s. I don't know if anyone is old enough here to really remember that, but at that time, Chappelle Show was coming out, and that was really pushing the bounds of what we would see as like non-PC comedy, right? Really kind of getting edgy, really leaning into racial humor, sexual humor, and kind of opening up the door for like everybody to do it. And then here it is 20 years later, and I'm watching this now going like, ooh, that might not have been what I would have done. But in the time that the movie came out, I kind of get it, but that's just like how it is for that. But the movie itself didn't do very well with critics. Okay. It didn't do very well with critics at all. And that is kind of what is to be expected. This movie is not made for critics as best I can say it. It ultimately ended up getting a 27% approval rating based on 124 reviews. The website, this is Rotten Tomatoes, says it's dumb and by the numbers, but serviceable. And you know what? I think that's kind of fair. It's dumb. It's fun. Is it by the numbers? Yes. All right. Is it Jet Li I don't want to say Jet Li phoning it in, but it's Jet Li just going like, I'm here to fight and break shit. Like, that's it. And then DMX is trying. But it didn't have the edge that Exit Wounds have. It didn't have that bite to it. Had good music. It had good fight scenes. It had all the staples of action from back in the day, but it was just kind of missing that certain je ne sais quoi, right? You'll hear me say that a lot probably in these reviews. It's just missing that one little thing. But it also ended up, only making $56.5 million off of a $25 million budget. So it's not necessarily what I would say is a massive success, but I have a feeling like the home video probably brought it over the margin. So it's still at that time, because of how much money was being made on home video and everything else, I would assume it probably made a decent amount of money for the investment made. But there's also a reason why Andrzej Bartkowiak probably didn't go back to work with Joel Silver after that. And Joel Silver, kind of like turned his attention elsewhere. He got what he wanted out of it. They made some money, but maybe they saw that it was just having diminishing returns, and they felt that they would probably move on to other things. But, at the end of it, I got to say, it's one of those things, man, where I look at it and I just go like, it's kind of special to the time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad I bought a copy of it on DVD. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I'm going through these movies. I'm having a lot of fun. They're not perfect films, right? They're not perfect films at all, but they're fun. And that's the thing about it that I enjoyed the most. And so if you've seen Cradle to the Grave, like, let me know. Let me know what you think about it. I want to know. And if there's any other movies you want me to cover, let me know as well. If you made it this far in the review, do me a favor and type in Cradle to the Grave in the comment section so I know. And I'll talk to you guys later when I cover Exit Wounds. Have yourself a great day, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Podio Commentary. Remember, guys, movies are love, movies are life. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.